Well, yeah, I know you're also eager to talk about Magic. I'm a little bit eager to look through this. I was able to catch this earlier, but our next subject matter for this podcast, and thank you for continuing to watch here, we're going to be talking about Magic the Gathering's ban list. They just updated the ban and restriction list this past Monday, yesterday, the 26th, and it was a date we expected was going to come, and truthfully, some bans that we expected to happen too, but then some that we didn't. So let's bring us into the screen here. Nick, I want you to lead us through it because you are definitely more versed in this, but I know the biggest one that I saw, and I'm skipping ahead here, is that they banned Grief in Modern. They banned Grief in Legacy. Otherwise, I don't recognize any of these other cards here. So do you want to start from the top, or do you want to like just kind of give us a overview first?
No, we can start up at the top. Like Standard has no changes. Like right now, like nothing's really like glaring in Standard, and they take like they take a pretty measured approach when it comes to like Standard. Usually I don't think I ever really have too much issues when it comes to something that they're banning in like Standard. Pioneer, both of these cards were egregious. Hold
on real quick. Hold on. I just want to chime in. Like, I've covered 3 of these ban announcements with you, and I don't think I've seen a change in Standard at all 3 of them yet. So like, it seems like it's pretty like stable format and that people aren't really worried about complaining about. Just want to throw that in there.
We'll probably see more bannings like going forward because of how deep the pool of Standard cards is going to get, because every pack that comes out is still Standard legal for 3 years. Plus, we're about to have a new set called Foundations, right? I think it may be Foundations 2024. And basically what Foundations is an extended Standard set, which will last for 5 years instead of the normal 3. Okay. But it has cards that aren't in the other packs. They're going to be brand new cards and stuff like that. And hopefully what they're hoping for is for this to be like Standard staples or cards that like maybe can fit into a bunch of different decks. So we might see some glaring changes when it comes to as that acclimates itself into the Standard format, right? And new packs start coming out. We might see bans from either the new packs or Foundations because of how they interact with each other. I think that will be where we'll get the bans for Standard, but nothing real glaring most of the time. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And like, that's interesting that they're going to have the extended packs for Standard lasting 5 years rather than the normal 3. And they're aiming for that to be like the skeleton for a lot of decks. Yeah.
And the 3's only been recent. Like, it only recently happened within the last year that they switched to a 3 year.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes, because we know they're very good at this stuff. I say sarcastically. So moving into Pioneer, we've got Amelia banned as well as Soren banned. What's the lowdown on these cards? Amalia, sorry.
So Amalia and Soren are egregious cards. Like, they're...
We've talked about Amalia.
Explain this. Yeah, I've said it before. Like, I didn't think that they were going to ban Amalia so soon, but I knew, like, immediately as soon as I played against the Amalia deck as Is It Phoenix, which is still like in the format. It's like the deck that I play is still interactable and stuff like that. This card is one of the most scary cards, and one underneath it, the Soren card, they're both equally as scary, basically, and they force like really gross play patterns. They don't play with each other, but to show you this Amalia card, right? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to jump in. If I recall correctly, this is the card where players are able to like bump her to like 18 and then push her to over 20, so that it becomes an infinite combo, right?
Not an infinite combo. It just became an infinite loop. So it just breaks the game. And that's like, you have to like, basically you just like have to concede, or it goes to a draw. I'm not really sure how you do it in like tournaments, because they don't have like time. It's just time for both players rather than time per person. But yeah, this is the one that can go infinite loop for a stupid reason. It forced a lot of really weird turn 2 to 3. Like, this is like one of the decks where I was like, it'll kill you on turn 3. Like, with like God hands, like it could get crazy. Yeah. And like turn 3, you're dead. Or turn 3, it has like a 20/20 and everything's gone, and you can't kill the 20/20 with most decks that are out. Like, so it had a lot of, oh, this just happened and you're screwed now. That's it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the card wasn't really like super expensive, but it created a lot of weird play patterns for people. It's very strong. And it was very, like, the deck itself was very synergistic and cohesive. Like, there wasn't really any parts that were kind of like, not like dead. I don't want to say like dead cards, because all these decks are like pretty efficient. It's not that they're dead cards. They're just not as powerful as like your star card. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you'll have like 20% of your deck would be like synergistic, but not like incredibly cohesive in your deck to work with everything. Amalia, on the other hand, like, is cohesive with everything. Everything's everything. And people were like, oh, well, you could just ban the Walker, which is like the B part of this AB combo, right? And like, no, we learned our lesson in multiple other formats. Like, get rid of the thing that's doing the thing, rather than like try to band-aid it and push it back to like 3 mana or 4 mana instead of a 2 mana drop.
So that makes sense to why Amalia has been banned. You know, let's move into Soren, and can you give me some like insight about what Soren?
All right, so he's 3 mana. He has 4 loyalty. The way loyalty works is you see the pluses and minuses.
Yes.
On the side here. So the pluses and minuses, +1 does something, +1 does something, -3 does something, right? Usually the minus ability is not castable. Like if it's castable on as soon as the card comes out, it's usually not that crazy. But what happens here is there's a card called Vein Ripper. And let me see if I can just pull it up real quick. Is Vein Ripper. And Vein Ripper's a vampire. Okay. So this card is for 3 mana. So on turn 3, you put this card out, and then you -3, and you put any vampire from your hand onto the battlefield. The card Vein Ripper is 7 mana. It's a 6/5. And whenever a creature, it's flying. And whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life.
So you're just dropping a big monster with a big effect pretty easily on turn 3.
Yeah.
So I know you said the -3, but how do you get to -3?
It just has 4 to start.
Yeah. So you spend them?
Yeah, that's it. You see it. It's like, you see how it has a 4?
Yeah,
like,
no, I
understood. So basically treat it like 4 counters.
Okay, yeah, that's the part I wasn't sure about. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to like think about it. They're, it's pluses, minuses. Like, usually it's like, these are called loyalty counters, but they don't call them loyalty counters anymore.
Right. And you can only do the effect once per turn or once ever.
Once per turn.
Okay. So like in theory, like basically you can drop a 7/7 every like 3rd or 4th turn.
Yeah, I mean, like, usually there's only Vein Ripper in the thing, but the problem being is that Vein Ripper, if you go back to Amalia real quick, it has an ability on there. So Amalia has War, pay 3 life in order to target this creature, right? Otherwise the ability will be countered, right? This is literally counter target ability or spell that targets this creature. That's what ward is, unless they pay 3 life. Okay. Yeah. So Vein Ripper, who's a 6/5, and you do it on turn 3, in order to target him and kill him, it's sacrifice a creature on the Vein Ripper. So he's a 6/5 flyer with sacrifice a creature to target the creature. And if you do that, he also has an ability whenever a creature dies, not your creature, your opponent's creature. It's just whenever a creature dies on the field. So if you sacrifice your creature to target this thing, you lose 2 life and they gain 2 life just for you wanting to target this thing.
Kind of nutty, man. So that makes a lot of sense to why Soren is banned here, and it was probably wreaking havoc. These vampires running the board in Pioneer overall. If you're okay, I'd like to push us a little forward and move into Modern.
That's fine.
Because I think those are very good explanations on why these were kind of like looked down on. In air quotes, Vein Ripper is kind of busted, and Soren is enabling you to drop Vein Ripper turn 3.
Yeah, their prices were crazy. Just so you know, like their prices on Vein Ripper and Soren were like $80 a piece.
Really?
Yeah, that, and they were a low. The weird part about vampires is that they get hit with a ban. right? The Soren gets hit with a ban, but because of the price point, there's not, like, if you go to like an RCQ for Pioneer, there's maybe one Vampires deck.
Okay.
Because of how expensive it is.
Right. And like that asks the question too, is that a good thing or a bad thing, right? Like we like Pokemon because it's accessible. The most expensive deck was like $200 total, $300, I think. And like even then there wasn't a lot of like them being played at Worlds. But like you go to like Magic here and like you've got one card costing $80 and you're gonna want to run like 2 or 3, right? 3 or 4?
Yeah, they were running like 4 Bane Rippers and 4 Sorens. Like it's like, cause you want to do it as like fast as possible.
Hey, Billy here. Wanted to take a quick minute to let you know a few different things. If you enjoyed the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people. You can find the Esports Meta live every week on Twitch and YouTube. It's where we film the podcast or hang out, play games, and chat. If social media is more your vibe, check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, or Twitter if you use Threads. Does anybody use Threads? This is a video game community that's excited to talk about esports, so jump into the conversation. Of course, you can find more videos like this here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button right there or there. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the show.
But you know, these cards exist in other formats, and what I will tell you is that the commander, like this is the commander players are what increase or decrease a lot of these like prices. But because this is only played in one format, like no other format is going like Soren Vein Ripper. No one cares. Like in another format, they're like, whatever. We do not give at all.
Yeah, there's so many of those cards. But let's head into the modern format, and we can see that Nadu was banned as well as Grief. And these were things we've talked about in a while. But like, run me through Nadu a little bit because we have referenced it. Why do you think they're targeting it now?
So the last ban announcement was right before the a big tournament. I can't remember the name of the tournament.
It was back in April. Maybe April or June.
June. It was June 24th, but I can't remember the tournament for Modern that was happening like right afterwards. Like literally that weekend. Okay, so they decided that they weren't going to ban Nadu at all. And Grief to change like because the big tournament was happening. And that they speak about this in this ban and restricted announcement.
Okay.
But Nadu itself, hold on. I have a quote because Wizards of the Coast they do not know how to hire people whatsoever. So Nadu, here's a quote for Nadu based on this is what one of the people at the company said. In one of these meetings, there was a great deal of concern raised by Nadu's flash granting ability for commander play. This is not a commander set, by the way. This is called Modern Horizons 3. Okay? It's a modern set, right? So understand like where they're coming from a design perspective. Their opening sentence, they open their mouth and they say, this card was designed like we were raised concerns about Nadu's flash granting ability for commander play. As you can see, it doesn't have flash, right? So they basically made this card around commander, and they go on to say it wasn't clear that the card would have an audience or home, something that is important for every card we make. Ultimately, and this is the creator of the card now, my intention was to create a build around aimed at commander play, was resulted in the final text. Like, again, this is not a commander set. These are not commander cards, but they're making commander cards, which tend to be broken. So you look at
they're making like, I'm not as expertise on this, like Magic specifically. I have followed it and like have been playing it on and off for the last 20, 30 years. And like, I'm confused by a lot of this, and I thought it's just me because like I'm a little out of touch of this, but it doesn't seem like it is. And like, why are you, I can understand, okay, maybe you're making with the idea that it could be used in Commander, but it's a modern set, and modern they're banning it now. So it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up in my head. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like the easiest way to explain it to you is that, like, you know, Commander itself is a casual format. Yes. The thing about casual play is doing things without paying for them. This is where broke shit happens. Like,
yeah,
right here, you don't have, you know, pay X hey, 5 mana, all your creatures have this turn, this ability, right? No, Nadu comes out. It's a 3/4, which they know what they're doing, and they make a 3/4 because they know that 3 damage is a regular amount of damage that they print on cards. 2 damage is a regular amount of damage that they print on, cards at lower end mana values, right? So they protected it with a 3/4 butt. It's flying, so it basically has evasion when it attacks. You need to have a flying creature in order to block the thing. That's already really strong for a 3 mana card. Then they have creatures you control. Whenever this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield. Again, just fucking do something. I can't express to you like how annoying it is that like it's always just do something. Don't pay any mana, which mana is such a huge part of the game, but they're trying to like kind of remove it with all these cards, like getting effects for no real reason whatsoever. And so they built this card from a commander standpoint in order for it to literally be good in commander, and they didn't build it for like one-on-one play. And like, here's the cool thing, like building for one-on-one play and it having like the ability to be played in commander with like a lot of different players and stuff. Cause usually it's just like each opponent, right? Target opponent, each player. Like when they say like each player, like these cards can go into commander because it's a multiplayer format. Right? So like they don't do that. And then they just make like busted ability. And so besides my, my bitching that I just did, Nadu itself, the reason why it's busted and needed to go was because in Modern, that big tournament that happened right after their last ban announcement on June 24th, it was like 8 out of the 10 decks in the top 8. The top 10 were 8 out of them were Nadu decks. And the reason is there's no mana investment. There's no investment to this card when you do your AB combo with this. And the B part of the combo is a card called Shuko, which was an uncommon that was 25 cents that shot up to $25. It's probably not 25 anymore because it got banned.
We had talked about Shuko the last ban and like a couple times since actually. So
yeah, it's just when you're not paying for things that you do in Magic the Gathering, the shit is busted. Like the shit is busted. Always.
Even as a defensive sort of reaction thing here when you're targeted by a spell or ability, but yeah, that makes sense. So, a lot more clarity on that. I want to move us over into grief and like sure. Nick, do you want to be the one who said it or can I?
You can do it.
About damn time.
Yeah, no, it's been way too long, right? And like now, I'm just glad that people. I'm glad and mad at the same time that people were finally on the same page when it came to batting grief. And it's again not about the power level of the card; it's about the game patterns and the interaction that it does. It's just disgusting play patterns where it's just not fun.
It goes back to the thing you were just saying about free value.
Yeah. And granted, like, somebody will say, well, you got to exile a card. It's like, yeah, but it's proactive. It's not reactive. It's proactive. Reactive, no man. And like, yeah, I say it all the time.
No, the proactive reactive was a great point when we did our deeper dive onto this, but it's, it puts you at advantage. It puts you at like just pacing advantage, right? So like on top of that, you're just ahead. Even if you exile a card.
Yep. There's nothing you could really do to this card in the format to really break even on turn 0. Like you're always at a disadvantage when you're playing against this card on turn 1 or turn 0, like whatever you want to, like your turn 0 versus their turn 1, whatever you want to argue. Like long time coming, everybody who said it shouldn't have been banned in the first place. Like, how do you fucking feel now? Like for the last year, people saying that it's not busted. And we just needed to show like this is the problem with Magic players. I'll say it right now. They're always like after the card gets banned, it's like, yeah, but we didn't find the show that made the card obviously busted. It's like, shut the fuck up and think for yourself. Like, I hate this argument of like, my whole argument was like giving you an exact scenario on it doesn't matter what the cards are around grief. This exact scenario is disgusting and no one should want to play when this is there. And that's the reason why it gets banned.
Well, that's what we saw. That this deck took over. It was like something like an 80% play rate, had like a 60% win rate,
50.
something like that.
50 at one point it was like 50% for like a week. It's died down now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. The deck wasn't touched. Like it took grief out, and grief was in the format. It was rampant in the format. Like if you were running black and not running grief, you were stupid. Like legitimately, like unless your deck really, really, really couldn't fit it, like Death and Taxes or the other not attraction, but the other Fabricate energy combo deck that came out. Like these decks don't run it because it's just not viable to run it. Every other black deck, if you're not running grief, you were just handicapping yourself for no reason.
Well, like yeah. And I do want to just add in, because I want to push this, into the next couple formats. I'm sure that the players that disagree with grief or said it doesn't need to be banned, they're probably sitting there saying the same thing that you were saying. Wizards doesn't know what they're doing, kind of stuff. And like,
I agree.
They might not be. they're not wrong, but in that way, they probably don't even know entirely what they're talking about. They're kind of focusing on other stuff. But maybe we're also seeing a smaller population at this point who've finally seen it and gotten tired at their LGS and want to move on. But like I said, I want to move us on into Legacy, which we can see grief is banned. Same sort of reason, especially in a format like Legacy. That's big deals. Then Vintage. We have Urza's Saga and Vexing Bauble. Let's start with Urza's. Do you have any information or knowledge based on what this is and why?
Urza's huge. Urza's Saga is huge. Like, it's a great card. But again, you're not paying. So here's the way sagas work. They come onto the field, right? And they start off on chapter 1. Right? Every turn, right? Every turn, after your draw, it goes to chapter 2. So basically, it's like a book for the
next chapter. Okay.
Yeah. Right. The first chapter is it's just a land that adds mana, 1 colorless mana. So it's doesn't add colors, but whatever. When it goes to chapter 2, if you spend 2 mana, you can create a 0/0 artifact creature. Like it's a +1/+1 for each artifact you control.
Okay. I can kind of already see where this is going. Yeah.
Right. And so chapter 3, and here's the cool, interesting part, right? Because the Urza Saga chapter 2 is an activated ability that it gains. It doesn't lose the previous chapter ability when it goes to the next chapter. So chapter 3, after you draw, trigger happens, search your library for a card with mana cost 0 or 1 and put it onto the battlefield, an artifact card. Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
In response to that, you can make another token, another construct token, and search for your artifacts. So you can have 2 constructs, which would, if you just had the 2 of them out, that's a 2/2, and you search to make it each be a 3/3. That's without any other artifacts onto the field for the most part, right? It's really solid. The reason why it's getting restricted in Vintage is because Vintage has all of the moxes and 1 mana crazy shit. It's the way that it's got the stuff that is really expensive, like $4,000 cards and stuff that you can only run 1 of. So you can search for your moxes and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's other intricacies for Vintage, because I only play 2 Vintage decks and I'm not too knowledgeable about Vintage. But again, the 3rd chapter, you're not paying any fucking mana for it. Not even 1, bro.
Real estate.
Not even 1. Here's what pisses me off about this card. It has the ability to tap and pay for itself if that ability costs 1 fucking mana. Fuck you. I don't understand. All you did, you lost the 1. You don't even lose anything. You just don't get to get a mana and search for an artifact, because you can float 1 colorless and sacrifice it and search for an artifact that gives you a colored mana. And so they're your 2 mana, right? So make cards pay fucking mana, even if it's 1. It's so stupid. It shouldn't be the normal where cards don't have to pay to do something, right? That's it. Even chapter 2 is pay for something, right?
Yeah, we're definitely riling you up too, and like the theme is like all these cards that are getting banned have a theme of they're doing stuff for free.
Exactly. Okay, go to the next card. Hold on, Vexing Bauble.
Hold on, I'm gonna take a wild guess here. Vexing Bubble, you're gonna do something for free. It's an artifact.
That's right. Go ahead and read it. It's like
whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. What? 1 mana, tap, sacrificing Vex Bauble, draw a card, and it costs 1 mana, colorless.
So this card again, like just to talk back about the Urza Saga, which searches for all the mana rocks that are 0 mana and stuff like that. If you pay 0 for something, you didn't pay any mana, so it gets countered. So Vexing Bauble, because it like if you have 4 of them in your deck and you play it on turn 1. In Vintage, nothing that they pay 0 mana for can they use. It just gets countered. So like, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it. Power 9. And granted, they're probably not running all of like Power, right? But like Power 9 is 0 mana for the most part.
This covers anything that gets played for free, was what you said, right? I just want to clarify from my understanding.
This counters grief. This counters the grief as well. But like, you'd have to go first. In order for that to be beneficial, right?
Win a coin flip.
Yeah, so this card's good, but again, doesn't pay any mana for a very proactive thing. Like, it's very proactive. Like, you're not doing anything for free anymore.
It seems very specific. That's kind of grown out of the specificality. I know, like, it's in Vintage format as well. So, like, we know that's, you have a lot more to cover. They probably didn't make it expecting that longevity, like thinking about that long term, but then here we are, and they
don't have enough play testing, like, and not even like really like it's not time period. They need a more diverse background for the people play testing and making cards, like based on like especially based on the statement that I have of the person who made Nadu. Like, they don't know Magic the Gathering. They're just making cards. So like.
In a little bit of
things.
Yeah, in a little bit of fairness too, I imagine that after making cards for 30 years, it's like making a new Simpsons episode, right? Like they've already done it, perhaps.
No fairness. Like a person who's been playing League of Legends for the last like 14 years, right? Like if they were to make a new champion, they're not going to make a champion who has an ability that is the exact same ability as a champion who came out 10 years ago. Like these cards are prevalent. Like Shuko was a prevalent card in a main staple format in Cephalid Breakfast. There's no reason to forget the card.
But just to push back on that point too, they're not sunsetting characters in League of Legends. They sunset cards, and then they bring them back in different formats. So, and like I agree with you. I'm not like trying to like push too hard on that. But it's kind of prevalent and obvious, and like, The overall though, this kind of wraps up our ban list. We have Explorer here, Amalia and Soren being banned.
Explorer is only because you don't know that Explorer is the digital version of Pioneer, and it's called Explorer because all the cards aren't in the digital format yet. So kind of like what I was saying before.
No, I understood and everything. I was just like reading it off because it is listed out here. Otherwise, historic and timeless and brawl, no changes on that. Next up is going to be their sort of announcement changes, their regards, but I don't really feel like we need to read into this too much. So I think
the TLDR for it is that they're going to do ban cadences at proper, hopefully at proper times that will give you ample time to take the bannings into account for your big tournaments, so that they don't want to, because they talk about the June 24th ban announcement, how it messed up with the Pro Tour, with the Nadu thing and everything like that.
So they're gonna like actually look at the schedule and work more cohesively with the tournament schedule to make sure that there's no big shakeups a week before.
Yeah, and this is mostly in response to Star City Games basically like bringing back a lot of competitive Magic tournaments and stuff where they really like fell off a little bit after COVID. So that's probably like why they're saying that they're going to be watching the ban announcements more closely when it comes to the timing.
At that point, I guess I'm pretty good with leaving it there. Any final thoughts? Any send-offs you want to have for that subject matter, that topic?
Nah, man. Just like put mana on the cards, bro. Like it doesn't always have to be a thing, but like, you know, these cards now are just like, they're so busted because there's no mana being spent into them. And it's like, just play type 4, bro. Like, I don't like, there's no mana in type 4. Just like, I don't get it. Anyway, I'm just going to rant again. But anyway.
No, and it's a good thing to rant about because generally speaking, people like free stuff, but then that free stuff ends up hurting them here with Magic. All right, so let's wrap up Magic for now and let's move into our final subject matter of the day. But first, of course, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking around a little bit. We've enjoyed having you here. If you want to participate, lend us your thoughts, jump into the discussion. You know where to find us right there in the comment section. Or if social media is more your vibe, check us out at the Esports Meta on all your favorite socials, TikTok, Instagram. I think we're on Threads too, Twitter even. So check us out there. And of course, we're here on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch. So you can check us here every Tuesday. We're live filming this podcast, and we like to stream here some games, hang out with the chatters, and play around with the audience, as well as doing some research topics on stream. So give us a follow. It really helps us out. Let your friends know, or just jump into the discussion because we love video games and I'm sure you do too. All right, final subject matter topic. We're into Deadlock. This was kind of a surprise one for us, as it was for most people, because out of nowhere on Friday evening, Deadlock decided to lift their NDA. The game that wasn't happening, that Valve wasn't making, especially after the fights they had with Verge, saying, you're not allowed to do that. And Verge going, but I didn't pinky promise. Well, they didn't have to, apparently. They just could have waited another month. But, you know, we have the NDA lifted. And almost instantly on Friday, we started seeing streamers realize they could play on stream and just immediately go there. I'm going to bring this over.